Welcome back to our Arbitrary YouTube channel. In today's class, I'm going to learn how to make this beautiful Milkmaid blouse that we see here. It's a very simple tutorial and it's beginner friendly. This is something you like to learn. Kindly stay tuned to the end of this tutorial. Thank you. Okay, so this is an off shoulder pattern, so I'm going to go off by 6 inches. As you can see, I started taking my measurement from 6 inches. This is my armhole measurement. This is my bust point. This is my under bust, and my waistline is 18 inches. So I made all of them into a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to take now is my chest measurement. That's your across chest measurement. If you don't know how to take that, you can also use your shoulder measurement, and then you deduct around 1 inch from that. So my across chest measurement is 12 inches divided by 2 is 6 inches. That's the measurement from one armhole area to the other on your chest line. So here on the armhole line, I'm going to take my bust measurement. My bust is 40 divided by 4 is 10, so I have 10 inches here, and then I'm going to add 1.5 inches seam allowance to that. And then on my waistline, I'm going to take my waist measurement. The waist is 30 divided by 4 is 7.5 inches. If you're adding that to this, you add 1 inch for your that allowance, and then you add your seam allowance as well. So after adding all of this, I'm going to connect this as seen. Then also using my curved ruler, I'm going to connect like this for my armhole. So now I have connected my armhole. So the next thing I'm going to do, so this is just going to be basically freehand. The next thing I'm going to do now is to create my cup for my okay. So you create the cup for the Milkmaid effect, and like I said, this is going to be basically freehand. So now I want to see my actual measurement, so I'm just going to mark it. Remember, I have this 1.5 inches as my allowance. Okay, so for me, I'm just going to use my free hand to connect from where my armhole stops here to form like a cup effect towards my under bust area here. So as a guide, I'm just going to use I'm just going to mark around my, if you can do this, just basically you are just connecting to form a cup. So my bust span is 4 inches. So here, okay, so my bust span is 4 inches. So here I'm just going to mark 4 inches on my under bust area. So from here, I'm just going to use my free hand to connect to form like a cup that just goes to that bust span measurement, and then from there I'll form like a sweetheart shape on the under bust area. So here at the center front, I'm going to come up by 1 inch, and then I'm going to connect like this, so that by the time I'm through, it's going to give me like a W effect on this under bust area. So this is the cup that I have formed now. So for your that, all you just need to do now is to measure that bust span measurement on your waist area again, and then you connect it to your under bust, and here you measure your 1/2 inch on both sides. Remember, we added 1 inch allowance for our dart. So now the dart is taken care of. The next thing is for me to cut out this pattern, and I'm going to use it to cut the back as well. So the back is going to have a zipper allowance, and I have marked the zipper allowance as you have seen. So I'm just going to place my center front area on it as well, and then I'm going to trace out exactly what I have there for my back. So now I'm cutting out my back. You cut like this, and then here you cut your armhole as well. You can use whatever neckline you want for your back. Okay, so the back is cut out. Now all you just need to do is to transfer your dart here, but I'm not sure I'll be adding a dart to this. So if I'm adding a dart, I'm just going to close the dart so that I can have just one single piece for my main body. So now I'm going to connect my dart. So simply I'm just going to mark the 4 inches from where my zipper allowance stops, and then I'm going to connect it up to the chest area or even to the upper part, so that I can easily close the dart. So on the sides, I'm going to mark 1/2 inch on both sides, and then I'm going to connect it like this. So after connecting it, I'm going to close the dart up just like I said. So just close just your dart area, and then I'm going to hold it with a tape. Okay, So after holding it with the tape, I'm going to cut out whatever neckline that I want to work with. So remember, we already went off by 6 inches, so I'm just going to add like 1.5 inches or 2 inches more to that, and that would leave me with 8 inches. And then from there I'm going to connect it for my back neckline. So now I can cut out my neckline as well as my cup area. Okay, so this is my back piece, and for the front I'm going to go ahead and cut out this cup area for my front. And again, I'm going to close the dart for the front as well, because I just want it to be one single piece. Okay, so for the Milkmaid effect, we are going to be introducing volume to this cup. Remember, this is the cup we cut out from the front. So now to introduce volume to this cup, I'm just going to place my tape now and then measure around 1 inches interval all around. So you can see me marking the 1 inch like this. Then after marking my 1 inch, I'm going to make it into a straight line, and then I'm going to slash and spread. So here now I'm going to connect the dots and then mark my straight line. So you can have as many slash lines as you want, depending on the fullness that you want around your bust area. Okay, so now it is connected, so you can actually label it 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 before you cut it out, so that you don't get confused. So now after labeling it, I'm going to cut them out. Okay, so now that I have it, I'm going to take my scissors and then I will start slashing it one after the other. So the numbers that I've written on it is going to guide me. So now I will place it. Remember, I have a straight line here and then I have a straight line here as well. So I'm going to use those straight lines as my guide to assemble them. So you just cut it, just cut through completely like this. So after cutting it, the next thing now is to start arranging it. So between each of them now, you can see the number placements. You're going to leave between 1/2 inch to 1 inch, or depending on how full you want it to be. So I'm going to be leaving about 0.75 inches between them, and then I'm just going to glue it down like this, so you can see how I'm leaving the intervals. Okay, so I have glued it down. So you all just need to do now is to connect all of them together, connect the base as well, and then you cut this out. So after cutting it out, this is what it looks like. So this is the cup area, this is the lower part of the front. You can see that it matches up. So when you match it with your line, you can see that it matches, and this is the back. So I'll go ahead now and cut all of this on my fabric, and then I'm going to add necessary allowance. Okay, so I have gone ahead to cut it out. You can see this is the cup area, and then on the center fold I added 1 inch allowance as well as the upper part. So on the lower part, to join it to the bodice, I added 1/2 inch to join it together, and on the main bodice I added 1/2 inch all round as well to join it together. Remember, I already added my seam allowance, so I did not add that. So this is the back. I added 1/2 inch on this upper part as well to turn it. So if you are turning with lining, you cut your lining the exact same way. So this is the lining for the front. I just cut lining for the front so that I can show us how to turn it in neatly. So now the first thing I'm going to be working on is this part. Okay, so because there is a V-shaped effect on the upper part, so what I'm going to do now is to measure. I think, remember, I have 1 inch allowance there, so that is not going to be included in my measurement. So from that 1 inch allowance, I'm going to measure around, depending on how open you want it to be on the chest area. So you can measure around 3 inches, and then from where the 3 inches stops on that 1 inch mark. Okay, let me get the chalk. Okay, so remember we have 1 inch allowance there, so this is my 1 inch allowance. Okay, so I'm going to sew from the lower part. Remember, this is the upper part, so the 3 inches now, including my allowance, is going to be 4 inches. Remember, I have 1 inch allowance up there, so I'm going to sew up to the 4 inch here on the 1 inch allowance. So after sewing this close here, what I'm going to do now is the 1 inch allowance that I have, I'm just going to fold it in neatly and then sew on it so that I can have something clean on both sides. So I'll go ahead and do this now. Okay, so I have done this. Now you can see I sew up to that 4 inches mark, and then I folded in the remaining seam allowance so that I can turn it out neatly. So you can go ahead and iron this, or you continue sewing and then you iron everything later. So the next thing I'm going to do, remember there's a rope that gathers everything together on the upper part, and then I added 1 inch allowance on the upper part as well. So I'm going to fold the upper part as well with my 1 inch allowance so that I can create a casing for my rope. So just like this for the two sides. So I'll go ahead and create the casing for the rope by just folding it twice like this. Okay, so I have created the channel now, as you can see, and then I made my rope already. So with the help of my safety pin, I'm going to pass the rope through the two channels that I have. So I'm passing from the outer part here to the center front, so you just pass it gently and then you bring it out from here. So once you bring it out, you drag it like this. Okay, so now after dragging it, you can see, so this is the end we drag this from. So I'm going to go ahead and sew it close like this so that it can hold it for me, and this is the other end as well. I'm going to sew it on the other hand to hold it together. So here, this is the rope. It can be adjusted anyhow you want. So the next thing now is to go ahead and run your gather stitch on the lower part. Remember, we did a slash and spread here. This is not our actual measurement, this is the actual measurement we are working on. So now, because of the extension that we did here, we introduced some volume here. So I'm going to go ahead and run gather stitch on the area that the volume was introduced. Then after that, we are going to gather it back to its original size. So what you're doing basically is just eliminating the space, excess space, closing up the excess space that you have here. So I already run my gather stitch, so now I'm going to gather it to fit into the space that I have here originally. So I'm just picking one of the rope and gently you are going to gather them together like this. Okay, so you can see I am gently gathering everything together. So removing my pattern now, when you open it up, this is what it looks like. Okay, so now what you need to do is to make sure that what you have gathered will fit into the space that you have here, as you can see. So the seam that we have at the center here should be a guide for you to match up your center seam so that you know how to sew them accordingly. So once they fit like this, what you just need to do is to fold it and go ahead, turn it to the right side facing right side, then you go ahead and then sew it. Okay, so I have pinned this down now. I'll go ahead and sew it with my sewing machine, so you can actually use your pin to hold this down so that you know where you need to make correction. Just use the midpoint here as your reference. Okay, so I have sewn it now. The next thing now is to cover it up with my lining, and like I said, you have to cut your lining the same way you cut your main body. So what you want to achieve is this cover up that you have. So all you just need to do is to flip the lining like this and then match it up, and then you go ahead and sew it all around so that by the time you flip it back, it's going to be neatly covered. Okay, so I have sewn it like this, and then by the time I flip it over, you can see how clean it is on the inner part as well. So this is the inside and this is the outer part of it. So now you need to iron it so that you can have something really neat, and then you notch where necessary as well. So the next thing to do now is to go ahead and join the front and back together by the side seam, and then we'll cut our sleeve. Okay, so the sleeve is a puff sleeve, so it's going to be like a short puff sleeve. So I have about 12.5 inches length here, and then the width is 15 inches on fold, which means by the time you open it out is 60 inches. So I have it on fold by 4 because I'm cutting the two sides together, 30 inches for first side and 30 inches for the second side. So because it's a puff sleeve, you don't need to use any measurement for the upper part here. So what I'm going to do on this fold point is going to be the head of the sleeve. So now to create the armhole, I'm just going to bring in my original pattern, and then I'm going to place it on this. That's the underarm area, that's the other hand. So and then I'm going to trace out my handle. So after tracing out my handle, I'll go ahead and cut out the handle, and then I'll open it out on this side. So now this is what the sleeve looks like. So now to gather it back to your actual size, all you just need to do is to create a casing for your elastic on the upper part as well as the lower part, and then you pass your elastic, and this handle is going to be sewn to the main bodice. So I have sewn it on both sides, as you can see. So this is what it looks like when you turn it out, and I have also attached my elastic on the casing I created. So the last thing now is to sew the armhole together and then close the sleeve. So I'll go ahead and then sew my sleeve to the armhole area, and then I'll take it to the mannequin so that we can see what it looks like. Okay, so this is what the blouse looks like on the mannequin. You can see the waistline area, and then you can see the Milkmaid that we have on the cup area. So you just size this upper part as much as you want with the help of your rope, and this is the V shape that we have on the upper part of the front. So you can see our little puff sleeve as well. You can decide to size this anyhow. It can be an off shoulder, or you can place it on your shoulder as shown. I hope you enjoyed making this beautiful tutorial with me. If you enjoyed it, let us know in the comment section. Like, comment and subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.